Waqt din xandira esklusiva mill-Katedral Anglikan ta' San Pawl, ġewwa triq il-punent il-Belt Valletta nisimgħu l-ħsibijiet u esperjenzi personali marbutin mal-ħajja, mewt u funeral tal-Prinċep Philip. Illum inkomplu bit-tieni parti tal-programm.
One of the lovely things is that here we have a relatively unknown cathedral to the people of Malta, but since our Undercroft Visitor Centre and Trattoria are open, we have more people coming, and everyone is welcome to come and look around the cathedral, to see our links with the royal family, and of course we have masses here on Sundays and during the week, and we are a functioning house of prayer, a place of worship, devotion, spirituality, and of course a great amount of history as well, reflecting the English time here, the British period, and moving on from that after independence in 1964.
I'd like to speak about the cathedral here in Valletta and the connection of Prince Philip with this church.
Yes, well, of course. He was a serving naval officer, lieutenant, when he was married, and he was posted to Malta to be the second in command of a small ship, Royal Naval ship. In those days, both this harbour, Marsamxett, and Grand Harbour were full of Royal Naval ships, and the land was full of soldiers, airmen, and sailors. So he had to move here. He was posted, and his wife was a mere duchess. She was not the queen. She was a princess. And so they moved here. And they lived in Lord Mountbatten's house, the Villa of Guadamanja, and because the Queen is a faithful Christian, she and he came here from 1949 to 1951 to the service on Sunday mornings, if he wasn't in the fleet at the time. So they became very intimately connected with this cathedral church.
Mm-hmm. And what about his patronage?
Well, when he came to inaugurate independence in 1964, the then Chancellor asked him to be the first friend and patron of the newly formed Friends of the Cathedral, an organisation that still exists today. So in our book, inaugurating the occasion, he is the first signature. And ever since 1964, he has been extremely keen to know what happens. He gets all the information. He has got, every year he's invited to our events. He hasn't been. The last time he was here was in 2015. So he's kept that connection up for over 50 years. Mm-hmm. Of course, he is the patron, or was the patron, of some 800 different charities. So, mm-hmm. You know, and of late, his aide-de-camp, Brigadier Archie Miller Bakewell, who was one of the guests at the funeral, has corresponded with us. The last correspondence we had with the Duke was in January of this year, mm-hmm. when he sent us his usual substantial donation.
Il-panelli madwar l-artal fil-Katedral Anglikan ta' San Pawl fil-Belt Valletta huma tifkira ta' dawk li ħadu sem biex jiddefendu lil Malta waqt it-tieni gwerra dinjija bejn is-sena 1940 u s-sena 1943. It-12 il-bandiera jirrepreżentaw fost oħrajn il-Royal Air Force, il-Flotta Merkantili Britannika u l-Flotta Irjali.
In the case of the Duke, I've met him 4 times at different events. I was in the army, and back in 2000, he presented me with a long service and good conduct medal, which is called the Territorial Decoration, which is a decoration from the Queen, and it was a very unusual thing to receive it from him. Usually received in more intimate circumstances in the county in which you live by a Lord Lieutenant, for instance. Then I met him again actually at Windsor Castle, where we were celebrating the 40th anniversary of an institution called St. George's House, which is an academic institution which he founded with the then Dean, Robin Woods. I met him as a teenager because I did the Duke of Edinburgh Award.
Right.
I did bronze, silver, and then gold. If you're a recipient of the gold Duke of Edinburgh Award, you go to Buckingham Palace and receive the badge, the medal from him. Mm-hmm. So that I did when I was 19.
Right.
So those 3 occasions. And then, of course, I met him here when he came for the second Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in 2015. 27th of November, we had a service for him here as our patron. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, we had a drinks reception at which he met members of the congregation, members of the Royal Naval Officers Association, veterans of his own regiment, the Duke of Edinburgh's own, which we have a plaque in the cathedral.
Right. And what about the next patron for this church, and also the dukedom, the Duke of Edinburgh? Who will be the next Duke of Edinburgh?
The current Duke of Edinburgh is the former Duke of Edinburgh's eldest son. That is the Prince of Wales. He's now added another title to his panoply of titles. When he becomes king at the death of the Queen, let's hope that's in many years to come, his titles are not used by him, and then they can go to anyone. And it seems that they've designated the title Duke of Edinburgh to go to the Earl of Wessex. So Prince Edward will become the Duke of Edinburgh, mainly because for the last 10 years he's run the Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme.
And the Countess will be the Duchess of Edinburgh?
She will be the Duchess of Edinburgh. Yeah.
Who was the last Duchess of Edinburgh?
Well, the Queen.
The Queen herself.
Yes. But when she became Queen,
yes,
all her other titles go. She's
yes.
just Queen.
Mm-hmm. You've met Prince Edward yourself personally.
Yes, I have.
What's he like?
Very quiet, soft-spoken, as they all are, confident. I met him right back when he just left the Royal Marines, and he received a great deal of criticism from that, but he wanted to go into the media, funnily enough, if you remember.
Yes.
He had his own media, his own film company, and that's what he preferred to do. He didn't want to be a military figure.
So very creative and artistic.
Very
really.
creative.
Yes.
Very artistic. He married Sophie Rhys-Jones, and they have 2 children. Viscount Severn, the young man, and Lady Louise Mountbatten Windsor. They re-inaugurated the Mountbatten part of their title. Mm-hmm. And she, of course, used to go carriage driving, as did the Countess Mountbatten, with Prince Philip.
Mm-hmm. So it's a pastime that they all shared, really?
Well, those 3 did.
Yes, yes.
And in fact, the Duke, in his will, has left his carriage and horses to Lady Louise.
An amazing event. I mean, only the British really know how to stage these kind of events. I mean, let's not forget that, of course, this whole situation, of course, has been planned many years before, and you know, I mean, everything was timed to the second. It was a wonderful spectacle. A shame, of course, because of the COVID restrictions, that not the kind of crowds and numbers of people were expected. But however, this didn't seem to detract too much from the overall occasion. It was a very, very solemn and yet dignified and very impressive spectacle in that wonderful setting of Windsor Castle. a castle which I know well because I was organ scholar there at St George's Chapel from 1980 to 1983. So I lived in the castle walls, so I really know the place almost inside out. So it's always wonderful to see it on television or anywhere. But the occasion was really splendid.
May thy portion this day be in peace, and thy dwelling in the heavenly Jerusalem. Amen.
Members of the royal family have been buried in the nave of St George's, Windsor, for a very long time. One of the most spectacular was Henry VIII, and then after the Tudor period, we get into the Caroline period, and Charles I, who was beheaded, the first monarch to be murdered. And there are many of us who regard Charles I as a saint, although he's not formally a saint, because the Church of England can't make saints, only the Catholic Church can do that. Charles I is buried there. And in the 19th century, in about, I'm just trying to think, 1860, I think, they decided to exhume, it is a vault, and they usually bury in lead-lined coffins. And when they brought up Charles I, his body was intact, and his head, which had been chopped off, was sewn back on. So down there in that vault is now the Duke of Edinburgh. Right. Not, I'm pleased to say, headless.
Grazzi li qed issegwu il-programm illum, inkomplu din ix-xandira speċjali dwar il-memorji tal-ħajja, funeral u mewt tal-Prinċep Philip wara il-waqfa qasira. Jekk tixtiequ segwu l-ewwel programm, tistgħu issibuh fuq Net on Demand.